Alright, I kind of wanted to go over a couple things that I've learned buying this camper that I thought maybe might help some people in the future. If you're looking at some vintage campers, you want to buy it when, without getting a giant Pandora's box of problems. So I'll show you a couple things that I noticed would really help me in the future looking for one. So this here is the water storage tank. The first thing I would look at when you go to look at a vintage camper is, does it have one of those? And of course you'll want to look for the waste storage tank. This one's located in the back. So your most important things are going to be, do the plumbing and appliances work? Appliances, especially since a lot of them operate off propane, like this vintage stove. And then the other thing is going to be, like I hit on first, speaking of appliances, you want to make sure your water pump by the water storage tank works. So when you go to look at a camper, it's really easy to tune in on all your cosmetic things. Is the ceiling looking okay? Is it sagging really bad? That would be indicative of a water leak. But don't get too tuned in on like windows and AC and stuff. Like you can see if you look at some of my other videos, it took me about 2 days to replace this window and build an entire new one, trim it out, and do framing around it and everything. So even if your entire framing is like rotted out in some places, it's really not as expensive to fix as if you had to replumb the entire trailer. And something to think of is the location of where your water heater is. Speaking of appliances, like this one here, the water heater was located under the bench, and you can tell I had to take it out because as soon as I hooked it up to water, regardless of whether or not it heats water, as soon as I hook it up to water, it's leaking like a sieve out from behind the corner. So I think it's just probably needed some spot welding, but I'm not going to mess with it. So you need to, whenever you go to look at a camper, get it hooked up and have whoever you're looking at, whoever's selling it, just have them hook it up to power and light and water, etc. Make sure you can check all this stuff. And don't forget to turn your water pump on if you're going to check the water pump from the tank. Again, it seems like pretty common knowledge. You want to check and make sure you have a good set of tires, but something that's really easy to miss is if you're going to look at a vintage trailer, make sure your tires don't have a bunch of play. Like when you pull on them, do they wobble? That would be indicative of some really bad bearings. Or that, something you need to keep in mind as well is there's a really good chance you're probably just going to have the bearings repacked. It's just a good thing to do if you're buying a trailer that's 30-40 years old and you don't know what the maintenance history is. Another thing that I learned just by asking when I ordered the parts, I ordered parts for my trailer on eTrailer.com. The guy I spoke to is named Vince. The guy's incredibly helpful, and they came here within like 2 or 3 days. Incredibly well priced. I definitely highly recommend them. But so something I found out is you'd have to take this tire off to see it, but on these old trailers, if they have trailer brakes, this one looks like it has the old drum brakes behind there, but if they have trailer brakes, what they'll have is they'll have a square, I'm just pointing at it now, but I'd have to pull up a picture online and show it to you, but it'll have a square piece of metal there if you can mount trailer brakes yourself. This one, like I say, already has them. Just have to get them wired in so they can work. So that's another thing you want to check, that'll cost you money if it's a hidden thing. So if you go into a trailer knowing you're going to spend a ton of money, then you know you're going to spend a ton of money, and you're not caught short-handed, But these are just some things that you don't get surprised. So your appliances, your electronics are big. If you're buying a newer one, you don't want, you get these trailers that have like really expensive electronics and stuff in them. Go ahead and make sure that works. But on these, the really old trailers, well, really all you have to check is your appliances, your water systems, your water tank and water pump, and then your tire bearings. Make sure, and a good idea is to go ahead, if you're planning on traveling long distances, go ahead and hook it up to your own vehicle and see how it tows. Take it around the block once, make sure it's not like herky-jerky and hasn't been in a wreck before and someone just kind of duct taped it back together with duct tape and bubble gum. Alright, I hope that helps if you're looking at buying some new trailers. Another great resource is goodoldtrailers.com. It's a ton of information there on a bunch of people, nerds like myself, who like to look at these old trailers and see what we can do with them. So, good luck!